Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another episode.
Working on OpenShift.
And sometimes we have a
This is so awesome.
are an open culture that
It's actually a big
importance of
piece of the component for your GitOps work.
Everybody has something that they can say.
On top of the Red Hat portfolio.
Wow, that whole intro is a blast from the past.
Yeah.
Which is appropriate because we brought back a blast from the past.
Yes, Black from the Past. Yes, exactly. I was gonna say I kind of missed that intro. I was listening to it. I was like, all right, give me good vibes.
A bunch of those people aren't even at Red Hat anymore.
Yes. Exactly.
We need a new one. But anyway, okay. Good afternoon, GitOpsians. Where I don't even know what episode we're on anymore. 67, something 66.
Yes. Yep.
What episode is this? I don't know. The point is if there were announcements, I forgot them. And so we'll get straight into letting Christian tell us about what has he been doing since he left us behind and abandoned me again.
Yes,
again.
Right.
I'm going to have issues. By the time this friendship is done, I'm going to have abandonment issues. That's what we
right.
Really...
Good luck following that up.
Wow. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So then thank you.
Yeah, right? Actually, that ties really nicely into our conversation about music earlier. Like, that's why we were late. We got busy talking about music.
Yeah. We were talking about your shirt, actually. We're talking about my shirt. All of our shirts, and you're like, well, I want someone to mention my shirt on air. So yes, so you got this cool AFI shirt, and we're talking about how AFI has actually been around longer than most people think. Because what's your hot take there? That
my hot take on it is AFI is the single most important emo band that you need to know. And then the natural follow-up people come up with is things like, well, what about My Chemical Romance? It's no, that they've been around for longer.
Yeah. When I actually tried to argue, and I did research, and like, no, I can't find any solid footing to disagree with Hilliary here. I think they were around for a while, so that's why we were late. We were discussing. Very important.
It was really well. We did diverge into the importance of ska, right, in music.
Yeah.
And we were arguing if that is like a more regionally beloved thing or not. I love jazz, and like I'll listen to all manner of jazz, especially big band jazz with that nice brassy sound. So naturally, I love ska. Obviously, if this should be a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You hear me talk about big band jazz, but I'm also wearing an AFI t-shirt, the next logical conclusion is she must like ska.
Yeah.
And you would
I don't
be right.
want to assume, but
yeah.
And you would be right. So that's why we're late. We just went down this entire rabbit hole of musical genres and the importance of AFI. Obviously, I like emo music, which is probably maybe a little bit of a surprise considering I have a literal mermaid tail in my background.
Yes, exactly.
I was such a cute little baby goth as a teenager. You all have no idea. I don like the standard software engineering uniform of like a t-shirt and jeans and a hoodie and stuff like that all the time. But
there you go.
in my heart of hearts, I'm still that little baby goth that there are probably some awkward photos around somewhere of. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you.
I mean, I'm pretty sure we all have awkward photos, right? Of that age, right? Of that time, especially in the late 90s, early aughts. There was there's probably some embarrassing pictures of me as well. Yeah.
Oh God. So my driver's license photo for the longest time was one such. I still had all the baby fat on my face. I had braces. Like I went to get my first tattoo, and the guy was like, "It's not that I don't believe you're old enough. It's that I just don't believe this is your ID."
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not really sure if that's a compliment or an
thank
insult.
You. Yeah.
But like, take my money.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
please. Yeah, please take my money. Yeah. So what have I been up to? Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure those that follow me, but those that you don't, I know Tal. I have had a lot of conversation with Tal. Tal has been also a big part of this. But I've been at Akuity, right? If those of you don't know, so those don't know, Akuity was founded by the founders of the Argo project, right? And so that's kind of what I've been doing. I've been head of community there, helping out with the whole open source strategy at Akuity. So that's kind of what I've been working on, and I've been actually part of the open source thing at Akuity is that they actually released a new open source project. So, and it's complete related to like CI, and so I was like, oh, that's kind of like Hillary's probably one of favorite topic. One of the topics that she's that's near and dear to your heart. So I've been doing helping out with the whole Kargo thing and at Akuity. And that's kind of why I'm here to talk about like Kargo, what it is, what it aims to solve, and basically it's such a young project. Also, it's kind of like my way of like imploring users to get involved, because as you guys know, being at Red Hat, right? And all former Red Hatters, right? Open source is kind of like the heart of everything, and you can't really build a product or even a piece of software without feedback, right? It's not especially in the open source world. So this is kind of like my way of like introducing Kargo, see if it can help out those folks, and imploring them to come try it out and help build out the product. So
yeah, this is another little minor pitch for open source. I don't think I say this enough. I think most people who've ever seen me talk ever will hear me reference the fact that I am self-taught, right? I've never attended college. I did all of my teaching through either myself or my peers or something else. And a huge like cornerstone of that was open source. Sometimes the way I would learn something was just to build and run an open source project on my local machine, even if I never contributed back to it or anything like that. Like, open source software allowed me to build a skill set that gave me a career. So I'm very much on the, if you have the time and you have the capability, like it doesn't even matter what your contribution is, even if it's a documentation fix, like that is so important. There are so many opportunities that the open source ecosystem creates. So like plus imploring you to help early projects, help any project, and just test their projects. Honestly, just download them and try to run them and see if the instructions in the README work. Like literally as simple as that can bring so much back. And like, I know I'm not the only person, like literally 100% can guarantee you, because I know so many other people, I'm not the only person who taught themselves this way. So there's a just huge pool of talent, way more talented individuals than myself even, who are being enabled through the existence of the open source ecosystem. So get out there and do your good deed and do something in open source.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same way when I was coming up for Linux. I just where I worked, I said, oh, they have email, they have DNS, they have all this stuff. Like, how do I do the same thing in Linux? And so I just went and figured it out, and I set up bind, I set up DHCP, and then you get pretty good at it after a while, and then it's like, all right, cool. And then you start stepping up and looking at different things. So yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I'm going to echo your documentation thing, Hillary, because even in the Argo project, like documentation is like things move so fast, and engineering can only do so much, and it takes different skill sets, right? So like sometimes I'll read some docs, like not even just Argo, just in general for open source project. I'm like, wow, I can tell an engineer wrote this doc, and that's not to like make fun of them or anything. It's just there's just different skill sets, right? Like it's like the way you talk to an engineer is not the way you would talk to an end user. So if you see a doc, and if you anywhere in any open source, like just in general, if you see docs that need improving and you think you can do it, just do it. It just it's you can even start as small as that. So yeah.
Localization is another big one too. If you have language skills, right? If you are multilingual, bilingual, or just like not a native English speaker at all, like help with that too, because that definitely gets that that creates accessibility to the community.
Yes,
if
for sure.
Not all the documentation is in English, because let's be honest, English is a terrible language.
Yes. It's someone said English is 5 different languages in a trench coat trying to be a language.
That is a really, really good explanation of the English language. I have the fact that you can say the same thing in like 10 different ways, but which words you use change the impression of your meaning, right?
Yes.
What are we doing to ourselves? And the context.
In the context. It's just,
The fact that I can use the word thingy repeatedly across like a paragraph and have it mean something completely different in each context and have it be understood.
Yeah.
What is this language? What is this language?
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. No, for sure. And Tal said, come try Hebrew. Yeah, with this like 7 ways, 7 cases and 12 cases, some crazy like that.
I mean, and then we get into that. From there, we start getting into Yiddish, right? And
the dialects, and it's all. Localization in Yiddish would be kind of cool.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. I just find a reason to call something a schmuck in there and like.
Yeah, exactly.
So many words you don't realize are Yiddish if you're not Jewish, by the way, folks. Like go down that rabbit hole and you'll find that
it's like,
I
didn't know
your
this
whole life and had no idea.
And had no idea for sure. That's right. Oh, cool. All right. I guess we can just dive right in, right?
Yeah, I think we're there.
I think we're already there. Yeah, let's so I'm going to share this presentation, Johnny, if you can, or someone.
Yep, I got it right now.
Awesome. All right, cool. So introducing Kargo, right? So this is an open source project started by Akuity. We announced it a few weeks ago. And it aims to solve a specific problem in GitOps specifically, right? So I'm going to prefix this with like, this is a GitOps on Kubernetes type of solution. It's very, very narrow currently. But again, very, very early in the project, right? And so what is Kargo, right? So let's get in to that. Where's my next slide? There it is. So a CI/CD, right? So expectation, right? So when we think about CI/CD, when we think about delivering an application to various environments, this is kind of like what you have in your head from like a high level, right? Like, okay, so someone makes a PR and someone merges that application gets built. You send that to an environment. Maybe you run some tests against that, and depending on those tests, you may send that over to another environment, and you may run other tests. You may stage it there, right, before it goes live, right? And you kind of just see this kind of linear thing when you think of CI/CD, and but that's the expectation. But the reality kind of just looks more like this. And this is kind of like,
I was gonna say, remember we gave an actual talk.
We gave a talk about it. I was about to bring that up. This. Yes, exactly. Yes.
And remember my really terrible slide?
Yes.
That attempted to illustrate almost this. Like, I'm so bad at architectural diagrams and like flowcharts and stuff. Like, don't ask somebody with dyslexia to do these things. You're not getting anything useful, right? It's just this is not my skill set. Whoever did this, and it had better not be you, because I'll be really angry at you if it was you.
No, it is not. No.
Whoever did this, I love you.
Yes. Yeah.
That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, we did a talk, and I'm actually going to bring up the talk. And we talked, what's it called? The pipelines and the multiverse of madness, right? Because that's really the reality of CI/CD, and the reality is that there's multiple things that happen in multiple ways, right? And so you may build, there's maybe a config change, you're running tests, right? There's a canary deployment, there's people doing approvals, hot fixes, doing canaries, and there's and those things can have their own pipelines, and those pipelines can have their own pipelines, right? Which is kind of like the talk we did about the multiverse of madness, right? The pipelines in the multiverse of madness is that this is the reality, right? Like we think this, but what's actually happening is this, and this CI/CD process is actually then compounded, right? It's like it's multiplied exponentially. Goes it's especially with like different environments, right? And so and this is kind of how things are, and what we've been doing as adoption grows with not only Kubernetes but with like GitOps tools like Argo CD, is that we're trying to bolt on old processes, right? Old processes, kind of like the thinking of like kind of like CI/CD into a more declarative approach, right? I think I don't think that that Gerald's on, but he once famously said, at least to me, that like it's an asynchronous process, and you're trying to bolt on like a synchronous process of CI into an asynchronous process of GitOps, and it kind of feels like a square peg in a round hole, but people are continuously doing it because like that's just kind of like the tools that we have and kind of the tools that we know. So, and the idea is, and I put this in small letterings if you can't see this, but in the context of GitOps, CI is being overused to do the job of CD, right? There are tons of bespoke scripts, right? And and when I mean like bespoke, I don't mean to say that like in a negative context, because that's just kind of like how CI is being done, right? Like the complexity of having to drop into Python or Bash shell and just like do weird things because just that's how it is. But in the context of GitOps, I think we're overusing CI, right? And so kind of think about it in the in both aspects of like what are the goals of CI and what is the goal of CD, right? Both of the CDs. Like the CI is like, okay, like building artifacts, running tests, doing it's kind of like essentially, if you think about like it's a job processing system, CI, right? Whereas CD is more of like, all right, given these artifacts, roll it out safely, deploy it or deliver it. That's the job of CD. And so if you think about it, CI pipelines are like short-lived, right? Build a container, lint this YAML, run these tests, right? It has a definite beginning and a definite end, right? And it's like, okay, once the job is successful, then it's done and it goes away. And this is especially true now, like with things like Tecton, where you're doing things in Kubernetes, it fires off a job, it does its thing, and it goes away. Whereas CD, they're actually a little bit, it's indefinite, right? Like you don't know, it can run like a canary release, right? Like there's this thing where people think like a canary release is like, oh, you run a canary for a few minutes, whatever, if everything's fine, you release it. No, I've known folks who run canaries for weeks on end, right? You're running 2 versions, and you run like the reality is like you're running canary deployments for a long time. Like in the real world, you're running it for I've known a place. I may or may not be able to say the name. Anyways, let's just say a place that has runs canaries for like 2 months, right, before even switching onto the new version. And canaries are really only done when the next deploy starts happening. And so you kind of have like a short-lived process and an indefinite process. Go ahead, Hillary.
I was gonna say this kind of ties back into, for folks who tuned in 2 weeks ago, what Angela was talking about like things can live a lot longer, in the actual hardware space and so forth. But this is true. It's not just canaries. Hashtag old job. We created something called holding, right? Where we maintained the previous version, and then 1, we could roll back to it, but 2, we could validate behavior against it as well.
Yes.
So like if we found something, we could figure out like, actually, has this always been here, and therefore rolling forward makes more sense, or is this a regression we introduced and therefore rolling back makes more sense, right?
Yes.
So, but I will say, one of the things and maybe you're going to get to this, and I'm like jumping ahead, but one thing I want to say that's really important to understand about the life cycling of CI and CD is the 2 different types of pipelines, the contents of them. These should both be kind of living things, right? They are going to, a CD pipeline can like never change, but realistically it will, you're going to introduce changes and so forth to it. But there's a degree to which a CI is more living and more rapidly changing. Like your CI should change every single time you need to build a new artifact. It basically is effectively a whole new, not a whole new thing, but it's a new iteration of itself. Like your CI should be constantly growing, constantly evolving, constantly changing. And there's an additional thing that gets lumped into the CI pipelines, but achieves a different goal. And you should be doing this if you're not, which is the pipelines that you use to validate what has already been like put out there with CD, right? Which is not against the building an artifact or anything like that, but it's the continuous validation. This gets lumped into CI pipelines. There's not a better term for this. There's not a better tooling set for it than CI pipelines. But you should be testing against production.
Yes.
You should. If you're not, I don't know what you're doing.
Yes, it's kind of, and you bring up an interesting point because you said hashtag old job, right? When we did the holding it's essentially, so if you think about it, that was kind of like, even after the canary was done, we were doing canary. Like it was post canary. I don't know what you would call that.
I don't know what you call that. Yeah.
I don't know what you would call
that.
But you're right. Like once we switched over to the new version, we kept the old version around and ran tests against that because it's like, what wasn't caught, right? Because it's like, because if you caught something that wasn't caught, then you have to write a test for that and put it in the canary. But like it's like organic, right? And so yeah, so like that's kind of like the idea of like canary or post canary, right? Like we're doing it. It's indefinite. We don't know how long that canary could be out there for a few minutes with a small change, or it could be out there for months. And that's kind of like kind of the idea of this has existed before, but it kind of comes to a head when you're doing GitOps, especially with Akuity and our customers. We offer an Argo CD solution, and all of our customers are running into this problem, right? It's like, oh wow, like it gets this is different, especially like after adopting Kubernetes. Okay, first you adopt Kubernetes, cool, but then you adopt Argo CD, and like it's kind of like, okay, like it got harder, right? And so what we're kind of thinking with, or like kind of the solution was around like, think about CI pipelines as like it's really smaller in scope, right? It's kind of like it's rigid, it does one thing. It's kind of like it has like it's like Rick and Morty. It's like Meeksies, right? It's like it does one thing, once it's done that, it's gone, right? And so it's it once it does the thing that is for its existence, then it goes away, right? It's CD pipelines. It's larger in scope because there are a lot of moving parts during a release, right? Especially microservices, and I'll get to the problem with microservices in a minute. But the first thing people say, well, what about Argo CD? Like, what is? So then why use Argo CD, right? And so like if you think about Argo CD, it deploys changes from Git. So it's kind of like the Unix thing. It does one thing and it does it very well. It deploys changes from Git to a single target environment, right? There's a one-to-one relationship between an Argo CD application and where it gets deployed, right? And so before anyone says application sets isn't a thing. Application sets, all it does is creates applications, right? So if you have 3 different environments, you're going to have 3 different Argo CD applications. If you could say I can replace that with one application set creates 3 separate applications, right? There's always a one-to-one relation with Argo CD, and it does it well, and that's fine. But Argo CD doesn't understand like relationships between multiple deployed targets, right? Like I have an app front end, app middleware, app back end, whatever. They have to be deployed together, and they have a relationship together. Especially in the microservices world, right? But Argo CD doesn't have a concept of that. All it does is like, I'm going to deploy this to that because that's what it says in Git, right? It does. Argo CD doesn't provide a pipeline. Argo CD isn't a pipeline, right? Argo CD it deploys our continuous deployment, right? It just deploys whatever's in Git. It doesn't write changes back to Git, right? Before someone says Argo CD image updater, that's not part of Argo CD proper currently. So Argo CD at its core doesn't like write changes back to Git, right? Like it's not dynamic. It doesn't it doesn't it doesn't like inspect your environment and like, oh, this needs to be done, so let me write that back to Git so that way it reflects what I'm doing.
Didn't you bring on somebody when you ran this show for a product that did do that and would inspect production environments and then if needed write changes back to Git?
Yeah, so I think Argo City Image Updater does that. I think Captain does that. I think. I don't know. That does sound familiar though. So that's a good does sound familiar.
I remember watching this because I was pretty sure that it was like summer, fall 2020 because I hadn't started yet. But I was at least in the interview process with Red Hat, which would put it about the August to September timeframe.
I look at the archives
of 2020, and I was new. I asked a question, so maybe it was as much as like early January 21 because I actually was here because I remember I asked her a question, and I think she was the CTO of the company.
Oh, good question. Ooh.
Anyway, never mind.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Completely
tangent. Yes.
The point is, it wasn't Argo CD. There are things that do that, but it's like the fact that there are things that have been created to do that demonstrates the importance.
Exactly, and that is importance. And then it actually doesn't Argo CD doesn't verify the updates, right? It just assumes since the deployment was successful, and if you have like standard health checks, it assumes. I'm like, okay, well, it deployed fine on Kubernetes and health checks are returning fine. So but it doesn't actually verify the application, right? It doesn't actually really do anything.
Gets us back to the importance of testing in production because you will literally see things working well to working not based off of runtime duration.
Yeah. Yes.
And
exactly.
That's why we restart things when they start misbehaving. Like, oh, if we restart it, it won't misbehave again for another.
Yeah.
We've seen as short as 19 seconds as a cron job for restarts I've heard about, and I've heard as much as every couple of weeks.
Slash retest, right?
Retest, exactly.
We should. You know what?
Make it start again.
Yeah, you should tell Scott to make that a T-shirt so that I would buy that. It's like slash retest. It should
slash retest. I should. Yeah, that's a great idea. I should just put all these little I'm gonna add that to the T-shirt store that nobody ever actually buys T-shirts. That actually makes me laugh every time I look at it. Yeah, that's the one.
Slash retest is what I want.
Slash retest. Gotta add it.
Yeah. So so what does promotion look like with GitOps, right? So if you think about a GitOps promotion and just remember that the CI for Kubernetes manifests have different life cycles than like building images, right? So you're going to have multiple things happening. So for GitOps, think about it. All right, when I want to do a promotion, I have one or many image builds, one or many Git repo commits, and or one or many Helm chart updates, right? It's a collection of these things, right? And like I said, I made a joke to someone. It's like, a GitOps promotion is like essentially everything everywhere all at once. Like you need to have all these things in place, right? I have, image builds, Git repo commits, Helm chart updates, a combination of those. And like, it gets worse because microservices compounds that issue. I spoke to someone in Amsterdam after like I did a talk there about GitOps, and this guy, he was having trouble because he's like GitOps supposed to make my life easier, but like I have to coordinate all these like commits and builds, and like we're running microservices, and so like I have like 10 different teams to try to coordinate this, right? Like it's like and they each have their own process, their Git workflow, Git flow process to do things, and it's like, yeah, you're trying to herd cats of a different species. It's like it's not even trying to herd cats, it's like you're trying to herd like all kinds of stuff, right? And so and just coordinating a release now in GitOps for some reason just got harder, right? I mentioned that before. It's like it got harder instead of it's supposed to make life easier, right? And so so keeping that in mind, right, is what we created, right? Big reveal is we at Akuity created something called Kargo, right? And so the aim for Kargo is a way to promote your GitOps applications in a GitOps friendly way, right? So we have declarative infrastructure with Kubernetes, right? We have deployments with Argo CD. Kargo aims to be the declarative way to do promotions. So if right now Kargo is its first class citizens Argo CD, hence the name Kargo, is Argo CD. But that doesn't mean it will only be for Argo CD, right? So it's completely open. It's the idea has been floating around to like write Flux integration, right? Because it has nothing to do with Argo CD specifically. You could even think about maybe an integration with ACM, right? Like that's completely possible with Argo. It just aims to help you promote from environment to environment, and it's essentially another tool in your belt to try to help you do things declaratively in a GitOps way, making your Tecton pipelines easier, right? Is the idea there, right? It's like make your CI pipelines a little bit more simpler. Don't use CI. Don't use scripts in your CI to try to do a release. Let a especially in GitOps, let a declarative application do that for you, right? And so I have to go through some of the concepts first because like there's going to be new terminology. Right, I'm gonna start throwing out things. You'll be like, "What does that mean in the context of Kargo?" But and all of these are CRDs, right? So just kind of let you know that they're CRDs. They're not just a nomenclature, right? So there's this concept called a stage, right? And so we went back and forth. We actually had a conversation / argument internally about the word environment, because when you say environment, it means different things to different people. You say environment to like a sysadmin, you're like, oh, okay, like an environment, that's like a collection of VPCs, firewall rules, a couple of AMIs, right? Like you think of this like cordon place, right, where applications run. And when you talk to the application developer, like dev is like it's like, oh, that's like the dev version of my application, right? It's like it's a working, it has nothing to do with where it runs, right? Like for a developer, they don't necessarily care where it runs, right? Like dev is like, that is that version of that application, right? So we decided to use something called stage, right? What stage is an application in? And for the all intents and purposes, with respect to Kargo, the stage is an application instance purpose and not its location. So sysadmins out there, just kind of remove dev test prod, remove that idea out of your head. From a Kargo standpoint, applications, its purpose is what we mean by stage, right? The purpose of this application is dev, right? Test, prod, things like that. And so from a stage, progression from stage to stage, right? From dev, test, prod, it can be automated, manually triggered, right? All that cool stuff. It's always funny when you just for those who are watching, right, and maybe Jonny can attest to this. Like end users are never happy. You said, oh, you can automatically promote. Well, automatically promote. Okay, you can do it manually. Well, how do you automate it? It's like, why aren't you happy, end user? Never. So end users, if just assume you can do it automatically or manually triggered, just all the time. Don't even ask the question. And so the next concept is a subscription, right? So this kind of goes back to this GitOps, the one or many, and/or one or many, and/or what a many, right? So subscription is how do I obtain the materials, right? Like like in dev, like how do I get the materials that I deliver, right? And so like I subscribe to a Git repo, I subscribe to an image repo, and anytime there's a change, I can see those materials, right? And so a collection of these materials is called a freight. So freight is kind of like a it's a spec inside a subscription, but anyways, a freight is essentially a collection of those materials. So think about freight not so much in the nautical sense, but think about it like here in the Port of Los Angeles, right? Things come to Port of Los Angeles, right? And then they get put on a train, and that train goes to like Vegas or whatever, right? The cargo, right, of that, right, gets collected or called freight. All right, that freight needs to get delivered from one place to another, right? So it's like a collection of things, which is where the name Kargo comes from, by the way. And you can also subscribe to other stages, right? So if you think about it, from dev to test, it's like, okay, well, like it's the same materials. I don't need to subscribe to the same Git repo or the same image repo as dev. I can just subscribe straight to dev, and those materials will be presented to me. And so that's kind of like a subscription. It's like, how do I get the materials to promote, right? And then there's a promotion mechanism, right? So how to promote the materials, aka freight, right? There's currently 2 ways, right? So like, okay, once I have the materials, how do I promote these, right? How do I roll these out? So there's 2 ways, right? Write back to get commit. So basically, when there's an image update or when there's like a Git repo update, I can write that to a Git repo, or I can update an Argo CD application to do that rollout for me. So basically, Kargo can be like, okay, I collected all these materials. I'm going to write those to Git, and then I'll trigger Argo CD to do that deployment, for example. And so it does that. The write back is from a technical standpoint, for those of you who care, it uses the same code base. Well, it uses the Argo CD image updater as a library, right? But that's kind of like an implementation detail. And so, but it does, use that write back capability as well. So promotion policy is just, it's either on or it's off. It's off by default, but you can promote it automatically if you set up policies like, hey, once this deployment is healthy, promote it to the next environment, right? And so where does Kargo sit, right, in this whole thing, right? So the Kargo essentially sits. I would have used a different graphic for this, but I would say Argo CD sits on top. But really, it essentially coordinates your GitOps promotion process, right? So it goes, okay, I'm going to be looking for a container registry. Oh, there's an update. I'm going to commit those to dev. Argo CD I'll be like, oh, there's a change in Git. I'm going to sync the application. And then Kargo will say, it'll say, okay, did that release go okay? I'm like, yes, it did. Okay. Then it'll present to whoever, like a DevOps engineer, saying, hey, there's new freight available for you to update if you want to promote it to prod or stage or whatever next environment you want. And it promotes that same collection of freight, right? So the collection of things that need to happen. And so so kind of the Kargo feature, right? So if you think about it, so just distilling it down, right? It's basically, Kargo is just a tool to help you do environment promotions in a GitOps friendly way. So it's taking the idea. I'm like, okay, like let's not overuse your CI process. Let CI does what it does best. Let Argo CD do what it does best, and Kargo will then orchestrate that for you, or coordinate that for you. It's supposed to make your life easier, right? And so, as I said in the beginning, get involved, please. Right. So this is an open source project, right? And PRs are welcome, discussions are welcome. So if you can go to the Akuity Kargo GitHub repo, you can join our Discord as well, akuity.io/community. I'm on there. People are on there asking questions, wanting to get more information. Tal has been on there constantly, giving us feedback on from the Git repo and from the Discord. He's been on there giving great feedback. So I invite everyone else as well to join that community. And on top of the community, so you get an exclusive, Hilliary. This is a first time announcing. So for those of you who are watching video, those of you who are on the chat right now, you get an exclusive. We're running the Akuity community office hours, right? And so this is kind of like once a month. We're just going to jump on Discord, right? Nothing official, nothing fancy, just kind of just jumping on, talking open source, talking about Kargo, right? The first one will be on Halloween, 11 a.m. Eastern, which is 8 a.m. Pacific. So I'll adjust your calendars, however.
Does that mean I should show up dressed up like an engineer?
Yes, show up dressed as an engineer. I'm gonna show up dressed like I know what I'm doing. So
yeah, exactly.
Well, we're gonna
the clean T-shirt.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Oh, a clean T-shirt. I'll have to wash my shirt. So me and Nick, right? If you guys don't know Nick is the developer advocate at Akuity. We're just going to be talking about Kargo. The first episode, October 31st, or I guess meetup. I don't know what you would call that on Discord. This is my first time doing something on Discord.
I can't. In Slack, it's a huddle. In all the other things, it's a call. I give up on these terms.
Well, speaking about overusing some terms on Discord, it's called a stage. So if we keep wanting to go on the Kargo, it's called the stage. Like you're on stage, I guess. I don't know. I will be I'll be on there October 31st. We're going to be going over Kargo, quick start with Kargo, and kind of like how you can get up and running with Kargo and just answer any questions and stuff like that. So be sure to join that if you're curious about and it'll be on Discord, right? Live on Discord. So it won't be recorded. If anyone out there knows how to record off of Discord, let me know, because I would love to post it afterwards. But I can't
stream it to something. Like I think you can stream through Discord to another location, like Twitch or something.
I think so. From what I read, you have to do it with OBS or something. You have to like
go through OBS, right.
And then like from OBS you can do it a multiple. So that kind of sounds that might, I have to investigate that. The first episode won't be recorded because I haven't because the KubeCon, I haven't had time to research how to how to do something. So maybe later on I'll record them and we'll start putting them on.
This is the official public call. If you already know how to do this and if there's explained to me like I'm 5 instructions that exist somewhere, Christian needs those.
I need those.
I just want to say this guy's username. I will kick you 67. Said that you probably just need to set up OBS. So,
Oh, okay. There you go.
Handle kills me.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That is funny. Oh man, cool. So that is here. That's an announcement. Our first ever the community office hours. Just come in, talk open source Argo, open source Kargo. We do have an agenda, but it's very, very loose, right? It's more of an office hours type of thing. So cool. So
nice.
Demo, right? How much time do we got for a demo?
So we're very technically at 15 minutes, but I don't have a hard stop today. And if our viewers do, they can come back and catch the recording later. It's not like this disappears. So I think you can go for at least another 10 minutes beyond the hour.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
so
I'll drop when I need to. So
I'll do a very simple, straightforward demo, and then if there's time or if there's appetite for it, I can do a more longer. Not longer, but a more thorough demo of like how you would use this, right? And so, cool. So, so we got Kargo here. So Argo here, right? So as you see here, we got Argo. There's an application in dev, and it's just a simple, just kind of dumb web app. But we have an application dev. We have another environment called test, test, and then UAT. And then we have multiple production instances of this application. Right now, it says missing and out of sync because it's not there. For the purpose of this demo, I turned off auto sync. You don't have to turn off auto sync for this to work, but just to kind of see the purposes of the demo. And then I have here. Let me make this a little bigger, just kind of so you can see everything. So so this is the Kargo UI, right? And so here I have a dev environment, right? That's actually running. That's what you kind of see here. That's why you have this little heart. Everything else has a broken heart because it grabs the health information from Argo CD. So I have my dev environment is subscribed to an image repository and a Git repo. And so so kind of what we're talking about is like in this application, a series of things needs to happen, right? I can actually also subscribe to a Helm repo if I want. It's like, okay, like I'm not ready to promote this until like I have a collection of these things, right? And so if you think about if we take a look at the dev manifest, and let me know. So if you guys can't see this, let me know if I need to make it bigger. I can. but the specification.
Sorry, I had to get my way to the mute button. You definitely need to make that bigger.
Oh, okay. Let me just make it bigger for now, like this. Okay,
that looks pretty good.
Okay, cool. So then, so here I have a subscription, right? I'm subscribing to the Git repo, right? So, and I'm tracking main, right? So I'm just trying to see every time there's a change in main. And I'm also tracking this image, right? This image repo, right? Update strategy equals latest. Don't mistake that for Docker, or podman : latest. It has nothing to do with that. It just means the newest. This nomenclature is going to change. This is based on Argo CD image updater, so it has to change there first before it makes it down to Kargo. But so what I'm saying is, give me the newest image, give me a list of newest images, and ignore the latest tag, because you never want to deploy latest, right? There's like just a bunch of reasons. Google it if you need to. There's a bunch of reasons why you don't deploy latest. And then I have a promotion mechanism. Like, all right, so
like,
when
I've told you why you don't deploy latest.
Yeah.
If you've ever watched this show, I've talked about that more than one time.
Yeah.
If you need me to, I will explain it again.
Yeah. So, so the images, promotion mechanisms, right? So like, all right, when there's an update in Git, when there's an update in an image, like, how do I roll that out, right? It's like, okay, well, the promotion was like a promotion mechanism, right? First, I want you to write, basically do a customized build, right? And write that back into the Git repo. And then Argo CD app updates. All I wanted you to do is just sync the app, because I'm not doing anything special with Argo CD other than just sync the app. So basically write back to Git, sync the app. If you have auto sync turned on, just, you don't even have to sync the app. You can just wait the 3 minutes if you want, or do it some other way, but I'm doing it through Kargo. And it says here, my status is like the available freight. I'm like, okay, cool. So available freight. And it's from this commit, right? It's like, oh, I saw this is the latest commit you have. This is the ID. This is the branch. You asked me to track this branch, and this is the commit message. And then there is a repo URL. Like, hey, there's a new image available, by the way, and this is the tag. That I noticed that this is the newest here. So, and this, the images. So just for kind of, again, going back to the Argo CD image updater, you can do things like semver. You can do things like regex. You can really narrow down what images you want to look for. So that way it presents it, you get the right presentation to Kargo, right? And so, okay, so like I have these things. I saw this freight, and I auto deployed it, right? So I already deployed it to dev. So how does it get to test, right? So here, let me scale this back down so you can kind of see. So from here, I'm going to either push or pull, right? So it's like a push or pull. So I'm going to push this update to the test environment. And so once that happens, so before I do that, or actually maybe I should do that and then talk about what's actually happening, right? So I say, okay, this top part is called the freight line, right? So this is how freight comes in, or like those changes. There's many. There was a lot of feedback about these icons. I also agree. I don't know what these icons do other than the fact that tribal knowledge. I
literally expected you to say merge when you hit the push one, and I was like, I was reading it. I was like, first of all, I don't understand what's like. I'm following along the demo. I don't think I'm like, completely oblivious to life. And I'm like, I don't understand where a merge comes in here, but go on, I'm listening.
Yeah,
and then you say push, and I was like, what?
Oh, what? Yeah. So I could do it the other way. I could pull the freight from dev into test, right? So I can do that.
One I understood. Like that one was intuitive. It was the other one that I was like,
it was the other one. It was
we need a new icon.
Yeah, new icon.
Designers.
PR, new icon. Yes.
Are you able to like disable the pull and only do push, or is that something that like it's just always there? You know what I mean? So like basically, like, what if I want to push only environment instead of a pull?
Yeah. This is it essentially right now does the same thing.
Okay.
But yeah, right now essentially it's the same thing. However, that they put it that way, so that way it offers them more flexibility down the line when you can do things like that, right? Push versus
gotcha.
pull.
Okay.
And so I want to update this, right? So when you go from dev to test, it says, all right, here's the git commit, and here's the image tag that I'm going to do. Do you want to do this? Yes. So when it's deploying to test, it's actually going to deploy it to test here. As you can see, this now is progressing. And I actually have a promotion policy, meaning if it's successful in test, automatically deploy it to UAT. But let's look at the manifest for test while it's doing that. So notice here, my subscription, I'm just subscribing to dev, meaning give me all the artifacts that are in dev. And when that's made available to me, the promotion mechanism is essentially the same. It's like, okay, write back to Git and let Argo City sync that, right? So kind of cool with the subscriptions, I can subscribe to other stages. Here it says, okay, your available freight, this is the ID, and the provenance is dev, right? So it's like, this came from dev. It didn't come from you subscribing to a Git repo. It didn't come, subscribing to anything else. It came from dev. So you know that what you're promoting is from what you think it is. And say, all right, here's the commit for from dev, and here's the image tag. We're gonna do this. And then the way I promote it, again, like I said before, I'm gonna write back and do an Argo CD sync. When we come back here, you can see that once test was deployed, UAT was deployed. So UAT now is in progressing, right? So if I go to like my test environment, right, you see the application, UAT is probably still going. Yeah, for whatever reason, ingress takes a while for the health to come up, right? So now I'm making UAT. What's it? So then you can see this freight line here. You can see that this version, this git commit, and this version of this image are all running in these three environments, right? It's color coded. And so then now I have this prod, right? So like UAT, I can go, you can have this like kind of pause step where it's like, okay, it went through test went fine. It auto promoted to UAT. I want to take a look at it before I actually promote it. What's kind of cool is that Kargo gives you the ability to have this like control flow step, which is basically a meta step. This prod doesn't actually do anything other than collect freight. So that way it kind of pauses there and it collects the freight. Here, subscriptions, I have here UAT, right? Oops, let me go back.
I'm a big fan of the Skittles colors, to be honest. Like it's pretty nice.
Well, yes. Well, and that's for me, so I can differentiate. You can make it whatever color you want, right?
Oh, okay. I didn't know that was like a default way.
Customize the colors. Hang on, we skipped that. I think that was like the most important part of the demo, and you didn't even go over it.
Yeah. So I have here a color called Sky. So you can, there's different colors here. I actually want to document what colors are available here. So, right, like that should be documented. You have to look at the code to see what's available. But
I was gonna say I don't like the like word names. Like it should just be hex codes so that you can just.
That was like my first thing I said when I saw this. I'm like, it'd be cool to have hex codes, right? And that's like the first thing I said for the colors.
And it just shows once again we're the same person.
Yeah, it's the same. Like we literally, And so here, I'm subscribing to UAT, but I don't have a promotion mechanism because my two environments is waiting for, production here, and then I can just update this to the latest version. And that rolls out, right? And so you have like this ability. The flow control step is actually you actually see it with a more complex. Let me log in here to our internal demo system.
So the thing that stands out to me the most on, right? Like if you've ever looked at like a DevSecOps pipeline, right? Especially using Argo and Tecton and stuff like that, right? Like you have all these jobs that are kind of like in between. Like the sync wait apps and stuff like that, where you're waiting for the deployment to finish, or you've got a git commit job that goes out and updates the commit hash on your repo, and then you have another job that's basically waiting to update the app like you're doing here. Like you're taking all of that out and making it into this, which I think is pretty awesome because I do not like using those jobs to do that. I think it's super hacky.
Yes, exactly, and that's kind of like the aim. the aim is to kind of like remove that need, right? Because right now, I mean, it's not that it's wrong. It's just the need is there. Like you
right,
need
exactly.
to do things like that, right? So like to remove that need and to remove that pain point of like the need to not have all these bespoke scripts and kind of just like it's that's kind of where Kargo comes into play. And so this here our demos, this is kind of where the flow control kind of makes more sense, right? And you can think about also like in the terms of microservices, right? So like if you can have multiple pipelines then converging into kind of like a control flow state where it's like, okay, I'm going to wait until everything is ready before I deploy it. This kind of shows that here where it's like, oh yeah, like I can wait and collect freight. Like, you know, like kind of, you think about it, like the train doesn't leave until all freight's on board. Kind of that same idea is like, okay, that's kind of like that control flow step, right? And kind of like it makes more sense when you look at it this way, or if you think about microservices, you can, you know, do things like that.
I got you. I got you. Yeah. That's awesome.
So yeah, and then like here at a glance, you can see like, oh, this version's running in production. You know, this version is a canary. This is like in staging, and this is in dev, right? And you can just kind of promote things across the. Yes, the train doesn't leave until the cargo is loaded. Yes. So
I'm really proud of that one. That was me. You're welcome.
Yeah. Yes, is awesome, right? And so so the idea is here. So then you know, kind of looking at this and stepping back, it all starts with the thing completely on the left, right? And so I know we're at the top of the hour, but I kind of just want to quickly show that this is not what I wanted to show. Where is my code? Oh, right here, I think. Yes. Okay. So if you think about it, if you go to like a code, right? Everyone thinks about you know, updates in GitOps or updates it being a new version of an image. But it's not always as simple as that. So for example, like if I have this application here and you know, I'm going to write a new functionality for this app, right? So this is fast coding, right? So I'm going to write for my application. What I'm going to do is that when someone goes to /greet, I'm going to read a config file and I'm going to display it. So I actually fundamentally changed this application's functionality. So now the Git repo that deploys this application is wrong. So because I added new functionality, right? I added something that fundamentally is going to have to change, right? So like if I go here, right, and I set up, you know, a new route, right? I'm doing /greet, and then also the HTML page. Let's go here, right? Right, quit. Save. Yes, I want to save all my changes. Save all the changes, right? And I do a git add for Hilliary for the horde. So you know, this will trigger, you know, a pipeline here, right? So this application is building. Simple. This is very, very simple, right? So like kind of like if you think about it, I was going to do this in TechTump, but I ran out of time. But like GitHub Actions, essentially, I build the image and I push it to Quay. Yeah. But actually, so funnily enough, like going back, I fundamentally changed this application because now it reads a config file. If I go to the app, if my deployment repo, you know, I don't have that config file for my overlay, right? And customize. I don't. This application is essentially broken once I deploy it to dev. So that's kind of the idea of Kargo. Is that, oh, like in order to deploy this, I actually need a change in Git as well. It's not enough to just change the image version in my deployment. I actually need to add stuff, right? I need to add, you know, imagine this is you know, either configuration file, whether it's a schema change, right, in your database, and you have to like fundamentally change like how things are deployed, and like you need to collect those things first before actively doing it, before actively deploying it. And so this application.
I have a question, and then I have a comment. I'm actually going to start with the comment because it's not really important.
Yes.
The comment is that my audition video for becoming a host on this show was introducing you to GitHub workflows. So I'd like to take the moment and say, I told you so.
Yes, you told me so. Yes, exactly.
I knew those were going to be big. I told you so. So it's my favorite phrase in the world is I told you so. I never miss an opportunity.
Got him. Yes.
Got him.
Exactly, Johnny. Exactly. Got him.
Anyway, so moving on.
Yes. So if I refresh this right here, this freight, so it detected a new image, right? And it's going to run that new version of the image. It's going to deploy it because I have an automatic deployment policy here. And this dev app should go. Now I have the /greet. I don't know if you can, let me make it bigger. I have the /greet. And when I click on that, I get a 500, right? Because I also need to make a change to the Git repo, right? And so this is kind of what Kargo is meant to do, right? We have, you're doing GitOps, you're doing not only doing Kubernetes, but you're also doing GitOps. And now it's like, okay, well then now your CI/CD process, your CI process really needs to go to that next level, right? You need to be able to. Kargo's basically kind of like it's a way to do those batch commits, right? Like you do a batch fix. Essentially, you're batching all these changes that need to happen before you deploy them.
So this exactly kind of goes to my question. So I talked about this in previous episodes, of using your CI pipelines for artifact collection, including things like sign off, like, okay, all of our tests have passed and here's the test report, stuff like that, right? So that Git commit thing that it would potentially wait on before doing the actual deployment aspect. Is that the type of logic that it has, is oh, you know what, we have a commit and the commits need to meet these requirements, and one of the commit be okay, here's the commit, and the message is everything's good, we go. So that means that we move forward. But if the commit message is no, stop, we stop. Would that be the type of capabilities that this is having, or the type of thing it's looking for?
Yeah. So yes. So right now everything's presented to you as freight. So you have to choose which freight gets promoted. We're in version 0.0.1, right? So the next version or the future versions, we're talking about the ability to filter those out in a policy driven manner, right? We filter out which Git commits matter because you're right. I don't want an update and README to produce a freight, right? Someone updated instructions in a README. That'll produce a freight. I'm like, well, do I have to promote that now through even though it's not going to make a change, right? Do I need to promote that now? So yeah, that's another aim of Kargo, right? We're gonna, the same way you can filter out images, we want to filter out Git commits as well.
So, yeah, we actually have it, I know, in one of our projects where if you make a change to the README, guess what? You're going to trigger the entire end-to-end. And it's
yes, exactly. You don't want that.
You're actually literally spending money you don't have to spend when you're in a cloud environment.
Yeah,
and you're creating VMs for end-to-end off of a README thing. Don't do these things to yourself.
Yeah, don't do these things. So that's again, that's Kargo in a nutshell. There was a lot of things I wanted to get to, like rendered manifests and why that's important, but I can do another hour on all that stuff. So again, just kind of last shout out, join the office hours if you're curious about Kargo. We're going to be going over a quick start on Kargo, so it's a hands-on kind of thing that you can do. Join me October 31st. If not, if you're going to be at KubeCon, I'll be at KubeCon as well, so you can help me down there.
I don't tell anybody. So I'm not speaking at KubeCon, so I am not going to KubeCon. But I'm going under my own power, my own money.
Fruition. I like how you said that, my own power.
It's I'm not going on behalf of Red Hat. So I will be there, but I'll actually get to enjoy the thing and go to the talks this time instead of booth duty. So nobody rat me out because I told the organizers no, I wasn't going to be there, and then I decided that I was going to go like again under my own banner. So I'm not going to be at the Red Hat booth. You won't find me there. And
it's like a scavenger hunt for Hillary.
Yeah, you won't find me there, but I will be around if people are interested. And I may or may not have stickers.
Ooh, nice.
We are coming down to the end of the GitOps Guide to the Galaxy swag, which I am in possession of. And so I will have stickers.
Got to get rid of it, right? Like, gotta...
Why do I have this big box of swag in my house? There's literally I can't find a place for it. It is sitting in my entryway because I literally don't have a place for it. So I will be bringing the last of the swag to hand out to folks. Although there is not, I say it's a big box. The box is mostly empty at this point. There's not that much left. So if you find me, you may be a lucky recipient of a swag item that I don't want in my house.
There you go. Cool. So so that's it, and that's Kargo, and that's kind of what I've been doing. So fun times.
Yeah, no, this is great. You were right. This is the type of thing I'm super interested in and care a lot about and would have really strong opinions on.
Exactly.
So naturally, of course, the extent of my sharing all of that is this exact stream, and now I'm done.
It's exactly.
A product manager, which I think is you,
yes,
gets to just review the stream for my feedback and thoughts and upvote or downvote all of those.
Yeah, upvote or downvote. Yes, exactly.
My glorious open source contributions come from telling people what I would change about their product when they come on my stream. that is what I've accomplished these days.
Yeah.
Okay. So on that note, we are over time. We've got to let Jonny go so that he's afraid that he'll end the stream. I don't think it will, Jonny, but if it does,
we'll see.
We'll see the hard way. It'll be no graceful exit. So anyway, I'll press the buttons. I'll end this. I will say that we should be back in 2 weeks. I gotta double check with our speaker. We'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about Prow, which is the CI/CD system used by Kubernetes and also therefore OpenShift. And that will be an episode at a special time because our speaker is she's from India. So I got to confirm with her that she's still on for 2 weeks from now. Otherwise, I'll be changing around our schedule as we continue on this kind of CI-focused mini-series until I eventually run out of topics and get back to, your standard GitOps programming. So keep an eye on the Twitter and the LinkedIn and the Blue Sky or the X, I guess. I never know what to call this thing. I give up.
Just generically. Yeah.
Generically. I think the public streaming calendar will update when I make the changes in the calendar on our end. And if not, I'll make Jonny update the public one because he knows how to do it. So keep an eye on the calendar. There will be a special time in one of the upcoming episodes so that we can get a speaker from overseas. And also, Tal, I should probably offer you the same opportunity. If you ever want to come on, I'll reschedule GitOps guide for your schedule. Tal is chiming in from Israel. And we appreciate that, especially the gallows humor earlier. I don't know if everybody else caught that. But if you don't have gallows humor, what have you got, right?
Exactly.
So anyway, lots of rambling. I'm getting tired. That's why that's happening. We're going to go ahead and sign this off here. I'm trying to find a button thing. I'm trying. Yeah. No, I wanted the outro button. I give up. I can't find it. I'm done. My brain's cooked.
Yes.
Have a great weekend. And until next time,
everyone.
Choose your technical debt wisely. We'll see you.